So after a little familation vacation, past couple weeks, which has been really fun, I'm very excited to be getting back to working on the boat. And I have a bunch of projects lined up for this summer that are mostly all on the deck. And I'm going to start in the bow and working on the windlass box and how the chain is going to run down the deck. This is going to be 2 episodes worth of work getting this system put together. It's really fun to be thinking critically about how the boat is going to operate. Again, these are going to be really fun projects. My name is Matt. Follow along as I turn Duracell, the legendary ocean racing sailboat, into a comfortable cruising home. For those of you who are new to the channel, in 1995, Duracell's previous owner, John, began a solo circumnavigation after buying the boat from Mike Plant. Somewhere south of Mexico near the equator, he had a collision with a cargo ship. John was not injured, but Duracell was dismasted and the bowsprit was destroyed. Last summer, I cut off the old bow and built and installed a new carbon fiber bowsprit. Alright, I'm finally back to working on the boat. I've got tons of cool projects planned for the summer, but I'm going to start working up here on the bow. Last summer, we built the bowsprit, all these chain plates. There's the staysail, the forestay, the code 0, the spinnaker goes on the end of the bowsprit. The anchor is also integrated into the bowsprit. You can see the slot that's on the starboard side, it's angled. That's where the anchor comes into the boat. And then the plan is to have a channel that comes down under the deck that leads to the windlass. So I want to get the chain and the windlass as far aft in the boat as possible, which reduces like the pitching moment that's in the boat if we're headed into some waves or something like that. After lots of drawing and measuring everything out, this is where I ended up with the best place to get the windlass and the chain. And so there's a bulkhead right here. This is where the staysail is attached. It's the forward end of what's going to be a big storage locker. So the windlass is going to be right on that bulkhead, and then the chain is going to fall through the bulkhead to the inside of that big storage locker that's after this bulkhead. There'll be 300 feet of either 3/8 or 7/16 chain, so it's going to be like 600 pounds of chain. The plan is to, like I said, build a channel. So I'm going to cut a big slot in the deck, and then we'll cut a hole in the deck right here for a hatch. The windlass will be under the deck, and we'll build a hatch that closes it off, so everything will be out of the way when we're not using the windlass or the chain, and it'll look really nice. There's all kinds of little bits and bobs that are going to be stored in this anchor locker. So lots to do here. It'll be a really fun project, but the first thing to do is to cut out the slot and build the channel that leads to the windlass box. After drawing out the channel and box on the deck, I was ready to start cutting. This is the perfect job for my track saw, which will make very straight cuts. I'm sure that viewers are wondering how a cut like this will affect the structural integrity of the boat, and I asked Evan, the naval architect. He explained that the majority of the loads on the deck are fore and aft or longitudinal, and cutting out a small slice will not compromise the deck or boat enough to be a problem.
Hey, honey.
Yeah.
I've noticed a pattern when I'm editing footage that you take of yourself. Whenever you cut out a chunk of the boat, like you did for the chain trough, you always sit back silently sometimes for like many, many minutes. Like I can't publish the whole footage because it's like 10 minutes. And I'm curious, what are you thinking about in these moments?
Well, when I cut like a big hole in the boat, I get a whole new perspective on the boat. I get to see
how the deck is constructed and where things are inside the boat relative to the outside of the boat. And I also realize if I've made a huge mistake or not. I'm also trying to come up with my next move, which is not always super clear to me. Then I cut out the top of where the windlass box is going. I'm trying to be very accurate with this so I can use the part of the deck that I cut out as the lid of the box without adding too much extra work. And I'm sure you'll notice that I did not cut the entire deck out. I left this part intact. It was originally built as a compression stringer that the old bowsprit compressed against. I'm going to leave it in place, which means I have to dig out the deck from underneath for the channel to connect to the bowsprit anchor channel.
All right, so I've got the box cut out of the deck as well as the channel for the chain is cut out of the deck. So what I'm going to do is build a U-shaped trough that will be glued to the underside of the deck where the channel is. I've got the kind of female mold built here. It's just a piece of foam. I have rounded the edges and it's going to be a very basic U shape with flanges on the end so that it's very, like, just glues up really easily to the underside of the deck. I'm going to vacuum bag it and be a nice evening project. Haven't done this in a while, it seems like, but so I'm really excited to get back into it. But yeah, here we go. All right, I've got my channel cut and the hole in the deck cut for where the windlass box is going to be. As you can see, it's actually further aft than where I originally planned to put it after doing some negotiations with Evan. And this is where we decided would be, it's more space for the windlass to go and it gets weight further aft. So I'm really happy with where it's going to be. We vacuum bagged the trough that will be glued to the underside of the deck, and now after getting it all fit in, I'm ready to glue that trough to the underside of the deck. I'm going to be working up inside the forepeak. It's kind of tight in there, so we'll try and film it as best we can, but yeah, first step of gluing stuff together for this windlass project.
So again, I'm going to use my Total Boat thickened epoxy. It's thick so. Again, super convenient stuff for doing projects like this where you just got to put a bunch of glue on quickly. It's very handy. I had to cut the trough in half to get it to fit into the very confined forepeak area. But it went in well, and I used screws to clamp it in place while the glue cured. The next day, I laminated the trough to the deck on both the outside and inside. This is a tight lamination which makes it fun and satisfying if it turns out nice. The purpose of this lamination is to both tie the trough to the deck structurally as well as seal the edge of the foam. I am also planning on making a lid for this trough out of the part that I cut out of the deck. This means I don't want to decrease the width of the trough too much by laminating layers of fiberglass onto it. So I'm just adding one layer of 17-ounce biax, which adds just 0.026 inches per layer when hand laminated.
Inspector.
A little bit of a shorter episode this week as we navigate family life with boat work life. So far, really happy with how this project is turning out. Next week, we're going to get into building the box, putting lids on everything. So plenty of work left to do on here, but so far, very happy with how it's turned out.
Last, we'd like to thank Morten, our new Patreon. He's from Norway. He has a Habergrassi that he lovingly maintains and sails with his family. They cruise around Sweden and Norway. Sounds like a very nice place, and we hope to get out there one day, do a lot of cruising out there. So thank you again very much to everybody. See you next week.